Hey guys, welcome back to the Surge Sanctuary. It's been about 6 months since we uploaded the announcement video, so we thought it was time to take you around again and give you a little update. So let me sit down, tell you a little bit about what we've been up to, and then of course introduce you to the new residents as well. So I decided that first we would sit in the field, and as you can see we've been joined by one of our new residents here. This is Moksha, who is an ex-dairy cow. She was in the dairy industry for 8 years of her life, and she actually came to the sanctuary on the same day that she'd been booked in to be slaughtered with her best friend Ella as well, and so they hang out in the fields all day long together. So as well as Mo and Ella, who were rescued from the dairy industry, we also have some survivors from the beef industry as well. And so behind me are a lovely group of older ladies. In fact, these cows are all between the ages of 12 and 17. Most cows who are raised for their flesh are killed normally within 12 to 24 months. And they've come from a farm where the farmer had an attachment to these cows. She sent all their babies away to be killed and slaughtered, but she had an attachment to these cows. But the problem is she'd kept them inside for 2 years in their own waste and dirt. In fact, there was 20 inches of waste and dirt in the barns where they've been kept. And so the reason that we were able to save them is because the female farmer's husband left her. So she couldn't financially afford to keep the farm running. She sent others to slaughter, unfortunately, but these ones she didn't want to do that, so we were able to negotiate for them to come here instead. So thankfully now they get to live out the rest of their lives here and spend their twilight years grazing and doing things that cows should do. So here we have Paul and Rue, and Paul and Rue are survivors from the dairy industry. And so when they were born, they were taken away from their mothers immediately, and they've been put in a pen and were going to be shot by the farmer. Because they're both male, males are useless to the dairy industry because they don't produce milk. And they're also a different breed to the cattle that we raise for their flesh. And so for many farmers, they're not seen as profitable enough to be kept alive. And so what we have here are animals who represent the whole scale of abuse in the dairy industry. Animals, mothers who were forcibly impregnated, who had their babies taken away from them, who were sold at markets and auctions, and who were going to be slaughtered in the slaughterhouse. And we also have 2 babies who never knew their mothers, were separated from them as soon as they were born, and were going to be shot. So thankfully we were able to rescue them, and they're now going to grow up to be big, strong bulls, and they're growing incredibly quickly as well. They're going to be huge when they're adults. When we first rescued Paul, for the first couple of weeks, we were actually very concerned about him because he was suffering very badly from something called bloat. Now, bloat's very common in the dairy industry for newborn calves because they're not feeding from their mothers. And so what happens is it causes digestive problems. And so when the vet came, she actually told us to not get our hopes up because bloat is such a common killer for newborn calves in the dairy industry. But the reality is, Paul thankfully survived because we gave him the care and attention that he needed. We made sure that he was being fed regularly, that he was being looked after, that he was being monitored, and that vets were called out when they were needed to be called out. But dairy farmers won't do that. They won't provide the time needed to look after newborn babies, and they certainly won't spend the money to keep them alive, which is why it's such a common killer. Not because it has to be, but because the dairy industry doesn't view these animals as worth spending any time or money on keeping alive. So here we have Holly, and as you can see, Holly's actually going grey, which is just so cute and adorable. And I'd never really considered that as animals get older, they show their old age in ways similar to us. She's actually 17 years old, which is really old for animals from the animal farming industries. Most of them are killed at a fraction of their lifespan, and so Holly has lived out a long life already compared to so many other cows. However, she can live really up until the age of 25, so we're really hoping that she has many happy years here with us. So we also have 4 lambs as well. We have Ivy and Dora, who are both sisters. Unfortunately, their mother died when she was giving birth to them, which means the farmer would have to raise them himself and bottle feed them, and he didn't want to do that because it would take too much time, and so he'd left them to die basically. There was also Olive, and Olive was sick when she was very young, when she'd just been born. And again, the farmer didn't want to pay for the vet bills. He also didn't want to spend time looking after her, so he was going to leave her to die as well. And then there's Toby. When Toby was born, he was born with 2 siblings. Now, because the way ewes have been selectively bred, sometimes they give birth to 3 lambs rather than 2, which often means when the 3rd one is born, because they're the weakest, they'll die. And so the farmer had basically left Toby to die as well. So we were able to rescue all 4 lambs, but only because the farmer was going to leave them all to die. And I've introduced you to Nigel before in a previous video, but we also have Daisy and Maisie, who are Nigel's best friends now, and they're just the most adorable pigs. They love belly rubs, they love being around people. And we also have Kevin. Now Kevin's story is quite sad because Kevin was on a construction site, and we think that Kevin's had a very hard life because of the way that he was treated on the construction site and the way that the people who were there were really looking after him, or not looking after him as the case was. And so Kevin is quite a shy and reserved pig, and he's taking his time to come out of his shell, but slowly but surely he is doing so, and he's now hanging out with the other animals, and he's slowly started accepting belly rubs as well, which is really wonderful. So you'll remember in the announcement video, I showed you this area and said that we wanted to build a pond, and we've been able to thanks to Ultra Ponds, who've kindly built this pond for us. And so what we have is an ecosystem pond. And so what that means is the pond is designed to benefit the wildlife in the area. There'll be lots of different types of plants and flowers, which will be really great for pollinators, bees, flies, dragonflies. And actually at the front of the sanctuary, as you come into the area of the sanctuary, we've also this huge wildflower meadow that's starting to emerge there as well. And we've been also growing mushrooms here as well. If you remember in the announcement video, I showed you the container and I showed you the inside and said how it's possible to grow mushrooms in a container just like the one that we have. And it's true, because we've actually been growing mushrooms here at the Surge Sanctuary. So a massive thank you to Jack's Patch. If you haven't found out about Jack's Patch yet, then I definitely recommend you check him out, because he's doing amazing things, and he set up our container for us and has been so generous and kind of his time and his knowledge. And what's really exciting is the mushrooms that we've been growing here, we've actually been serving at Unity Diner. So if you've been in recently and you've had the lobster roll, which is one of our new items, then you have had the mushrooms that we've been growing here, which I think is really cool. So we've been here now for about 6 months, and when we arrived here, we had 18 acres of land and a lot of work to do. And so in the past 6 months, we've been doing a lot of work on the land, building accommodation, building housing for the residents. And so now, 6 months later, we have over 100 rescued animals, which is just amazing. And I can't believe that we have so many in such a short space of time. We also have still a lot of work to do around the sanctuary, and so we need to build a winter barn for the cows. We're also building a really wonderful area for the chickens. There's great space for them. And we're also building currently an area for goats, because we're going to be rescuing some goats in the very near future. And goats love these kind of very dynamic areas. They do lots of climbing. They're very active animals. So we're so happy with the progress that we've made, with the new residents that we have, and we can't wait to keep rescuing more and more animals here, building more and more infrastructure, and creating more and more space for wildlife and for the natural world to have a space here as well. So thank you so much to everyone who has helped make the Surge Sanctuary what it currently is and will continue to be. So thank you to everyone who has shared our story online, shared the stories of the animals online. Thank you to all of you who have donated to us financially. Thank you to all of you who have donated your time and your skills, volunteering and building things. Thank you all so much, and we really hope that you like the place that the Surge Sanctuary is continuing to become.